Hello everyone. Now we have completed the chapter number 10, that is light, reflection and refraction. I hope you are clear with what is reflection, what is refraction. Fine. And we have also seen the concave mirror, the convex mirror as well as the concave lens and a convex lens. Okay. So now what we need to see is the human eye and the colorful world, that is the new chapter, a chapter number 11. Okay, generally this chapter is the continuation of chapter number 10, that was the ray optics. But in this chapter we will see where we are using the daily day life of reflection as well as refraction. Okay, so let's start the chapter. The chapter number 11, the human eye and the colorful world. You have studied in the previous chapter about refraction of light by lenses. Okay, we also studied the nature, the position, the size of the image formed by the lenses. Yes, we are clear about that. If it was beyond x, below the x-axis, it was real and inverted. But it was behind the lens or behind the mirror, it was virtual and erect. Fine. The nature and size we saw, that was a small, diminished, a point-sized object, enlarged, infinity, highly enlarged. These were the sizes of the images formed when an object was kept at some sort of distance. Okay. Now, so today we will help see that how the human eye uses light and enables us to see objects around us. It as a lens in its structure. As our human eye is said to be the world's best camera, or say the natural camera we can ever see. Okay, it is having the highest resolution possible, and thus we can see the most nearby object as well as the most far away objects clearly. Okay. So we will also see that what is the function of the lens in the human eye. How do the lens used in the spectacles correct defects of vision? Fine. So there, as I told you earlier when we were solving about the convex lens and concave lens, that they are used in the defects of eye of vision. That means if you cannot see distant object clearly, then we will be using certain lens, whereas when we are using, we cannot see the nearby objects clearly, we are also using some sort of lens. And when the age increases of any personal human being, then we are using a bifocal lens or a cylindrical lens in our day-to-day life, that we will see how they are made and how they work. Okay. So our first topic is the human eye. Students, as you have studied this earlier also in lower standards, you please pay attention over here, okay, as it is quite important to us. The human eye. Human eye is one of the most valuable and sensitive organ. It enables us to see the wonderful world and colorful around us. On the closing the eye, we can identify objects to some extent by their smell, taste, sound they make, or by touch. It is however impossible to identify the colors while closing the eyes. Thus, of all the sense organs, the human eye is the most significant one, as it enables us to see the beautiful colorful world around us. Fine. So let us see the schematic diagram of a human eye. As you can see over here, the schematic diagram of a human eye. Okay. So the first thing is the cornea. Okay. The first thing is cornea. And you know, students, the light enters the eye through cornea. Okay. The light enters the eye through cornea. On an average human being, the size of the eye is always 2.3 centimeter. It is always 2.3 centimeter. You can also see there is a crystalline lens over here. Okay, the aqueous humor stands for a liquid is filled over in the human eye so that we can see things clearly. There is also a pupil and iris. The ciliary muscles are elastic in size, elastic in nature, and so that they can converge or diverge the things. There is also a retina and the optic nerves. We will all see the functions of each and everything over here. If it is asked in examinations, then we need to draw this and then we need to explain the short note about it. Fine students, so let us start that from the second paragraph over here. The human eye is like a camera. Its lens system forms an image on a light sensitive screen called retina. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. Its lens system forms an image on a light sensitive screen. There is a sensitive screen in the human eye on which the object is formed, and that is also known as retina. You please tick that points. These are the functions of the human eye. Light enters the eye through the thin membrane called cornea. This can also be asked in an examinations, that if the light enters the eye through a thin membrane, it is known as cornea. It forms the transparent bulge on the front surface of the eyeball. Yes, students, if you can see, there is a bulging out. That means our eye is slightly outside our human body. Fine, and that is a transparent bulge on the front surface of the eyeball. As I told you earlier, the average human eye size is always 2.3 centimeter in diameter. So we can see that the whole length of the human eye is always 2.3 centimeter in diameter. You know, the human eye is the human eye is the only object, only organ in a human body that does not grow from the birth to death. The size of the eye remains same each and every time. It is just the layer of the skin that opens up and closes whenever our age increases. So you need to know that the human eye is the only organ in the human body that does not changes its shape when the age increases. Fine. Okay. Now we have also seen the reflection as the refraction, two modes of light. Fine. So the most of the refraction for the light rays entering the eye occurs at the outer surface of the cornea. So where does the refraction light take place? It occurs on the outer surface of the cornea. The crystalline lens merely provides the finer adjustment of the focal length required to focus objects at different distances on the retina. Now, as you know what is focus using camera or a smartphone. Okay, if we are concentrating the camera's lens on one thing, everything gets blurred. We can also say it as in portrait mode whenever you are using a phone. So the same thing is happening in our human body or in a human eye. Whenever we are focusing on one particular thing, the other things get blurred. The other things get blurred. And so that the crystalline lens are used for the adjustment of the focal length. As you all know that if we want to see a far objects clearly, we need to diverge our eyes. Fine. And if we want to see a nearby objects clearly, we need to converge our eyes. So these are the basic regulations of eyes. Fine. I hope you are clear with this. So now what happens? This crystalline lens is helping us to provide the adjustment of the focal length as well as for the focusing on a different distances. Remember students, to see the far objects I need to diverge, and for a small distances the eye needs to converge. Okay. Now we find a structure called iris behind the cornea, which is the structure find behind the cornea, that is also known as iris. That is also known as iris. See over here, they have given us the function of the iris. Iris is a dark muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil. So as I told you that our eyes converges and diverges according to the objects what we are seeing in nearby things. Okay, so what is the element or what is the organ which is functioning like this to control the size of the pupil? To control the size of the pupil. So iris is a dark muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil. If asked in examinations for a true or false that iris is a dark muscular diaphragm and that is also used to control the size of the pupil, then we will write true. Okay, we will write true. Another thing, if they are asking that iris is a dark muscular diaphragm that controls the size of dash, then we need to write pupil. Okay, and if they are asking us dash is a dark muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil, then we will write iris. Then we will write iris. Okay. So what is the general function of pupil? The pupil regulates and controls the amount of light entering into our eye. Okay, you can see over here, the pupil regulates the control and the amount of light. See over here, we are having a pupil. Fine, the pupil is the main lens of white color that is being found in our eyes, and in between of that there is a black color dot. Okay, so that is the pupil, and pupil controls the amount of light entering to our eye. Say for example, if we are in a dark and somebody suddenly switches on the light, our eyes gets closed by itself. Our eyes gets closed by itself. This shows that the retina, the pupil is regulating the control of amount of light that should enter into the our eye. So it is quite automatic. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. And as we also that the image from beyond below the x-axis is always real and inverted. It was always real and inverted. So the eye lens form an inverted real image of the object on the retina. The eye lens forms an inverted real image of the object on the retina. The retina is a delicate membrane having enormous number of light sensitive cells. Fine, retina has a membrane which can sense the light. As I told you that whenever we are in dark or sleeping and somebody switches on the very high amount of light, our eyes gets closed. So there is a delicate membrane which senses the light. As soon as they sense the light, they will act accordingly. They know how to converge or diverge the focal length. Fine, I hope you are clear with this. But what does these light sensitive cells do? These light sensitive cells get activated upon illumination and generate electrical signals. Okay, as we saw in electricity that then whenever the key switch was kept on, the electric signal was passing from a positive terminal to a negative terminal. The same things happens over here. Whenever I see something, it senses the object in front of us. Say it is our vehicle kept in front of us, then we will memorize this, yes, it's R or it's our not. Okay, the same way these light sensitive cells get activated upon the illumination and generate electrical signals. These signals are sent to the brain via optic nerves. Please note that students, the signals that is being generated by an illumination of light, they are sent to the brain using optic nerves. As we seen the optic nerves over here, these are the optic nerves through which a brain is being sensed that what type of element or what type of object or a human is kept in front of us. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. So these signals are sent to the brain via optic nerves. The brain interprets these signals and finally processes the information so that we perceive object as they are. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. So what happens? Light enters the eye through the cornea. Okay, the light sensitive cells are also known as retina. The crystalline lens, fine, it is being controlled by iris, and so the dark muscular control iris is a dark muscular diaphragm that also controls the pupil. The crystalline lens is the same form of pupil. We can control the crystalline lens and pupil with the form of iris. Pupil also regulates and control the amount of light entering into the eye. The pupil regulates and controls the amount of light entering into our eyes. Okay, what was the basic dimension of the human eye? It is always 2.3 centimeter in diameter. It is always 2.3 centimeter in diameter. Okay, and then where the light was sent, the eye always forms a real and inverted image of the object on the retina. So you need to know that Whenever it is asked in the examination that the island forms an inverted real image of the object on the retina. The retina is a delicate membrane having enormous number of light sensitive cells. The light sensitive cells get activated and it also generates electric signals, and now these electric signals are sent to the brain via optic nerves. The brain interprets this signal and finally processes the information so that we perceive object as they are. Okay, I hope you are clear with the human eye. Fine. See, there is also one extra paragraph given over here. Let us read that. The damage to or malfunction of any part of the visual system can also lead to the significant loss of visual functioning. Fine, what they are telling us is that if there is a damage over eye, we can also lose our eyesight, and that is quite common. If something is hitting hard on our on an eye organ, then we can also lose the sight. Okay. If any of the structures involved in the transmission of light, like the corona, pupil, eyelids, aqueous humor and vitreous humor, what was vitreous humor and aqueous humor? That was the liquid portion filled with eye. We can feel that our eye is always wet. Fine, whenever we are touching the white or a black portion with our fingers. So that the vitreous humor and aqueous humor are the liquid filled materials, and those are responsible for the conversion of light to electrical signals. Fine, that was not written in our textbook, but that you need to know that the aqueous humor and vitreous humor are always responsible for the conversion of light to electrical impulse like the retina or to even the optic nerve that transmits these impulses to brain. Okay, like the retina or even the optic nerve that transmits the impulse to the brain is damaged, it will result to a visual impairment. Okay, so that if that optic nerves are also damaged, then we can see objects but we cannot recognize what is kept in front of us. This usually happens when the optic nerves gets damaged. This optic nerve gets damaged sometimes by the coma, stupor, etc. diseases when we are having a heart stroke on our brain. Okay. Next thing, you might have experienced that you are not able to see objects clearly for some time. When you enter from the bright light room to a dim light. Okay, so what they are telling us, and yes, we have experienced that whenever we are out in a sunny days and when we enter our drawing hall, after sometimes we cannot see things clearly because the pupil is not ready to accept the change what they are getting. Okay, so the pupil of an eye acts like a variable aperture whose size can be varied with the help of the iris. The pupil of an eye acts like a variable aperture whose size can be varied with the help of the iris. Okay. When the light is very bright, the iris contracts the pupil to allow less light to enter the eye. Okay, so here we can see that the iris is controlling the pupil and thus pupil allows the less light to enter through the eye. But however, in dim light, the iris expands the pupil to allow more light to enter the eye. Thus, pupil opens completely through the relaxation of iris. Pupil opens completely through the relaxation of iris. Okay, I hope you are clear with the human eye, students. It is very necessary to write in examinations with figure. So you please go through these things. Okay, if you are having any doubts, you can please let me know further. Fine. Next topic, the power of accommodation of eye. Now what is power of accommodation? Actually, the another name of power of accommodation is the focus. As I told you earlier, we can see up to some extent and we cannot see beyond some extent. Okay, and that depends on an individual human being. Everybody has their own watching or a sight or a visual capacity through which they can see things. Okay, but one thing is common, that is the near point of the human eye. What is near point of the human eye? Here, the word near point of the human eye stands for what things we can see which are very close to our eyes, which are very close to our eyes, and that is only 25 centimeter, and that is only 25 centimeter. Fine. So eye lens is, let us read here the power of accommodation. The eye lens is composed of a fibrous jelly-like material. Its curvature can be modified to some extent by ciliary muscles. Okay, so you need to remember that eye lens is a composed of fibrous jelly-like material. It is composed of fibrous jelly-like materials. Its curvature can be modified to some extent by the ciliary muscles. Its curvature can be modified to some extent by ciliary muscles. Fine, as I told you that ciliary muscles are responsible for the stretching of the eyeballs. Okay. The change in the curvature of the eye lens can thus change its focal length. So ciliary muscles can also change the focal length, or we can say that the ciliary muscles are responsible for the change in the focal length. When the muscles are relaxed, the lens become thin. When the muscles are relaxed, the lens become thin. As you know, when our eye is at a normal position, fine, and we are not focusing on anything, then the human lens are thin. Thus, its focal length increases. This enable us to see distant object clearly. So, whenever you are keeping your eye lens thin, when we can see far objects clearly, as I told you, we are diverging, and we want to see a clearby thing, a nearby things clearly, then we need to converge our lens. Then we need to converge our lens. Fine. The So it is written over here that this focal length increases. This enable us to see the distance object clearly. But whenever you are looking at objects closer to the eye, the ciliary muscles contract. This increases the curvature of the eye lens. The eye lens then becomes thicker. The eye lens then becomes thicker. Consequently, the focal length of the eye lens decreases. The focal length of the eye lens decreases. This enables us to see nearby objects clearly. This enables to see the nearby objects clearly. Okay. So over here they have given us the definition of accommodation. You need to write. Please go through it. Okay. Here they have given us the definition of accommodation. The ability of the eye lens to adjust its focal length is called accommodation. That is quite dependent on the ciliary muscles. As the age increases, the ciliary muscles get weak, and thus we need to have the spectacles. Okay. So what is the definition of accommodation? I am repeating once again. The ability of the eye lens to adjust its focal length is called accommodation. So over here you can see that the ability of the eye lens to adjust its focal length is called accommodation. Means how our eye lens will adjust its focal length so that we can see anything that is distant or nearby clearly is known as accommodation. The focal length of the eye lens cannot be decreased below a certain limit. The focal length of the eye lens cannot be decreased below a certain limit. Okay. So the near point of the human eye is always 25 centimeter. The near point of the human eye is always 25 centimeter. See students, they have written over here that to see an object comfortably and distinctly, you must hold it at about 25 centimeter from the eyes. Okay. Fine, I hope you are clear with this. To see an object comfortably and distinctly, you must hold it at about 25 centimeter from the eyes. The minimum distance at which objects can be seen without strain is called least distance of distinct vision. Distinct stands for clear vision over here, and least distance stands for the nearby distance. Fine. So what they have written over here, the minimum distance at which objects can be seen most distinctly without strain is called least distance of the distinct vision. It is also called the near point of the eye. It is also called the near point of the eye. For a young adult with a normal vision, the near point is about 25 centimeter. I hope you are clear with this. Okay. For a young adult with a normal vision, the near point is always about 25 centimeter. Okay, and the farthest point up to which the eye can see objects clearly is also known as far point of the eye. For a young adult human being, the near point is always same. The near point is always 25 centimeter. Okay, after if you will keep an object near to 25 centimeter, that is say example 20 centimeter, 15 or 10 centimeter, we cannot see things clearly. We cannot see things clearly. So we to have a thing clearly, what we need to have is that should be minimum 25 centimeter away from the eyes. Okay, and the farthest point up to which the human eye can see objects clearly is called the far point of the eye. It is infinite for a normal eye. Okay, so for the far point it is infinity, and the near point it is 25 centimeter, and the near point it is 25 centimeter. You may note here for a normal eye can see objects clearly between 25 centimeter and infinity. 25 centimeter and infinity is the clear wavelength for a normal human eye. Okay, I repeat, 25 centimeter and infinity is the normal wavelength for a clear vision for a human eye. So over here 25 centimeter is said to a near point or a distinct vision of a near point, and the far point is infinity. Far point is infinity. Sometimes the crystalline lens of people at old age becomes milky and cloudy. This condition is also known as cataract. Students, we have seen in our home that the old age people, say our grandfathers or grandmother, had an operation, which we are after that they are wearing a black color sunglasses in our home. Fine. What happens during that time? So that time, what happens? The main thing is that on the layer of the eye there becomes a milky and cloudy, that is a new layer is formed on the human eye due to the aging, and thus they lead to the loss of the partial vision. They lead to the loss of the partial vision, and this condition is also known as cataract. This condition is also known as cataract. Fine. But if the surgery is not done completely, this also causes partial or loss of complete vision. It is possible to restore vision through a cataract surgery. Through a cataract surgery. Fine. So a milky and a cloudy layer formed on a human eye is known as cataract. The milky and a cloudy layer formed on a human eye is said to be cataract, and this also causes a partial or a complete loss of vision. Okay, I hope you are clear with the today's topic. If you are having any doubt, please let me know. Now we will continue for the defects of vision on the next lecture. Thank you.